Today I've got the Astrolux FT03 mini thrower. This is the smaller version of the bigger FT03 that I reviewed earlier last year, and it runs off 18650s or 18350s, has USB-C, is available with a couple different LED tints, and it has UX LEDs that you can see here, and it's available in 3 different colors. Thanks to Banggood for sending this to me to look at and review. If you haven't already followed me on social media, I'd appreciate you consider doing so. Liking and subscribing really does help this channel. The Astrolux packaging is heavier cardboard with a line drawing of the light, as you can see on it. It's got a sticker on the front that tells you what the specs of your archer received. Inside you get the light itself with a bag of extras. I got a lanyard here that is kind of short and a couple extra O-rings that are in there. You get a manual and you get the light itself. Banggood does sell a version with a battery as well. I believe it's a Samsung 30Q. Great battery choice for this option. Overall construction of the Mini is pretty much identical to that of the original, except it's scaled down to fit your 18650 batteries, and instead of the 26650 that the original used, threads are anodized and Acme cut on both ends, and this middle tube here does remove so you can throw on the other tube here. The raw side goes towards the torch and the anodized side goes towards the tail. It's pretty much identical, as you can see here, in design. The only real difference is these flats. There is an extra set of them on the Mini. There's 3 here, and on the original there is only 2. The head is the same. You've got the same button here. It's got an LED indicator underneath there. You can see blink. You've got the same heat sinking here, and the battery door is slightly different. It's a little bit different design. The original's longer, but very, very similar. Underneath here, you do have the USB-C port. The head is pretty much, again, like the original, but scaled down. To me, it's not in scale with the body. It seems to be a little bit smaller diameter with everything else, but that's okay. The top here is a little bit crenulated. You've got an anti-reflective coated lens. You've got the deep reflector, and then you see the LED down there in the center, along with the 4 UX LEDs, which are in rainbow mode currently. Maximum length of this light is 145 millimeters. Maximum diameter is 44 millimeters at the head. Minimum diameter at the body is 24 millimeters, and weight with a Sony VTC6 battery is 181.6 grams. Compared with original light and battery, that's 397.7 grams, so this is less than half of the weight. The light is IPX7 water rated, but Astrolux makes sure to tell you not to submerge it in water. Retention, there's not much to say here. Due to its size, it's not a light I'm going to EDC in a front pocket, but it works just fine in a jacket or something like that. It does not have a pocket clip or anything to attach it as an EDC in a pocket, but you do have a lanyard attachment point back here in the tail cap. There are a couple of different LED options and tints available with this light. There is the SST40 option and the Cree XHP 50.2 at 5700 Kelvin or 6500 Kelvin. I have the warmer tint with the XHP 50.2 here. The driver in use is the Texas Ace Avenger driver with auxiliary capabilities. So in practice, the light's different from the full-size light. Beam is tight, but not as tight with flat top LEDs like the AceBeam L17 that I reviewed recently or the LumenTop GT Mini. It's a more broad beam, which I think isn't bad. I think it's a little bit more useful for most cases. It's not a laser beam, and we'll see that in the night shots. There are 4 RGB LEDs down there that you can see in the middle that are currently rotating through their rainbow mode. By default, that's the mode it comes in, but it comes in low output, and I have it set on high here, so it shows up a little bit better. Through the UI, you can set it to a consistent color, rainbow, or volts mode. All right, here are my night shots for the Astrolux FT03 Mini, and this is running a Cree XHP 50.2 LED, and this is running off a single 18650 right now. It's got a Cree XHP 50.2 LED in 5700 Kelvin tint, and this isn't the ideal setting, but it'll have to do here before this storm moves in and it really starts snowing. They claim 4200 lumens. I don't believe that. It's just not that many to my eye, but you can see the beam here. It's broader, it's got a decent amount of spill. No real faults here. It throws well, but not amazingly well. They say 452 meters of throw. I think that might be a little bit generous. It does have Android UI, so I'm on turbo right now. And it can ramp down quickly, which is good. It ramps up quickly. It does have stepped modes and does have a bunch of party modes and fun other things. So that's an option too. The light also has RGB LEDs here, and they are in the mode where they cycle through all the different colors. And you can kind of see it in the emitter here, which is pretty cool. These are kind of a nice bonus. You can shut them off if you wish. Bit of comparison here. I've got the Lumentop GT Mini. It's got a Cree XPL High LED. They claim 1200 lumens and 750 meters of throw. And you can see it's a much tighter beam. It's still got some spill, but much tighter. And I just think this one throws better. It doesn't have quite as much output, but it's just such a smaller hotspot. It makes it feel like it throws better. It's also a nicer neutral white tint. Almost a little bit warm here, which I prefer. And here's the two side by side. Here is the Astrolux FT03 Mini with that 5700 tint Cree emitter. And here is the Lumentop, just a much smaller, tighter beam. So here I have the light in its small configuration, and I just love how it looks with that. It's just tiny. I mean, it's a lot of fun. But for my runtime tests, with the 18650, I used the Sony VTC6, and I used a VapeCell 1100 milliamp hour 18350. I tested it directly out of the package without adjusting the thermal configuration, since it is an advanced feature, and I really don't think most people will do that. That said, if you do buy this light, you should look to do that. Runtimes with the 18650 were a bit unstable, but pretty reliable, and you can see that's the longer line here on the graph. Both batteries got about 3.5 minutes before stepping down significantly to 5% relative output, and then as it cools off, it steps up again to around 20%. So my recommendation would be to only keep it as bright as you need it for maximum battery life. The total runtime for the 18650 was 1 hour, 42 minutes, and 30 seconds, and the maximum runtime on the 18350 was 32 minutes and 30 seconds. Heat wasn't a major factor here, with the light having a pretty aggressive thermal throttling. So the UI on this light is Android. By default, it ships in a ramping mode, and you can see here, I've got it in stepped at the moment, but it does have a ramp. I've switched it out to ramping mode here. And you can see the ramp is pretty fast. That's what's great about Android. It does have some blinks at certain points in it though. It's not my favorite feature. Android is a good UI, but complex for a beginner. It has a lot of options inside too. Tons of blinking modes. Like I said, you can configure the RGB LEDs. It's one that you have to read the manual and have to follow the diagram. And I'll put a picture of that in here too, or you could just Google and find it. If you are interested in a more in-depth review of Android, make sure to check out my Lumentop FW3A review. The light does have USB-C charging here on the back, and this only works with a USB-A to C cable. USB-C to C cables or USB-C PD will not work. I did the recharging tests with that Sony battery and then that VapeCell, and max charge rate I saw was 1.65 amps, and overall charging took 2 hours and 2 minutes on the 18650. With the 18350 battery, I saw the same charge rate, and overall charge time was 42 minutes. I had no issues using the onboarding charging for the 18650 battery, but for the 18350, that's faster than what I normally like to charge at. So I'd recommend you do that in an external charger where you can slow that charging rate down and keep it around 1C. So for me, this is just a fun light with the 18350 tube installed like I have it here. It's a lot less practical in terms of runtime, but it's also a lot less small. Android UI is highly flexible, but it's not that easy to use, especially for a beginner. And I like that it's got a nice selection of LEDs available and tints and body colors as well. You can get it in green, blue, and black, I believe. The cons for me are, I think the claims here of 4200 lumens are probably optimistic, at least on my copy when I compare it with other lights I have. I just don't think it hits that. And auxiliary here is more of a cool thing rather than super useful. I feel like on a light like this where you're not going to EDC it, although it would help you find it in a lost dark room. My conclusion is I love the original FT03 that I have sitting here. It's a great value for a large format thrower. The Mini shares a lot of the same features and somewhat similar performance, but overall, I'm just not as excited about it. The auxiliary LEDs here don't do a ton for me, and they are neat, but not that practical. For the money, if size isn't a factor, I'd go with the larger FT03. If you want smaller size and don't care as much about tint or colors or the auxiliary LEDs, check out the Lumentop GT Mini that I have here as well. Banggood has that, I think. You can get it elsewhere on the internet. It's got a flat LED in the center here and has an even tighter beam. So overall, these are fun lights. I like them both. They kind of are different purposes. The Astrolux has the onboard USB-C charging, which I know a lot of people like, and the auxiliary LEDs, and the Lumentop has neither of those for about the same price. So if you've got either one of these lights, let me know what you think of it in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, like this video and share. It really does help the channel, and I will catch you on my next review soon.